Very clear.
It's been over 9 years since the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent and more than 1,000 U.S. servicemen have lost their lives. But the complete impact on Afghanistan is not yet known. President Hamid Karzai has been facing increasing criticism from Western nations over how he's running the country. Corruption and cronyism are still pervasive.
There needs to be much better governance within Afghanistan. There needs to be far more accountability.
On the military front, a counterinsurgency strategy has sent tens of thousands more troops to southern Afghanistan. But that has so far failed to stop major attacks. And it's looking increasingly likely that President Barack Obama won't be pulling troops out as early as he had planned. There's also concern over continuing violence and the preparedness of the Afghan security forces when they inherit the lead role in 2014. Over the next several months, the U.S. face in the region will go through some major changes. The vacancy left by the death of Special Envoy Richard Holbrooke is to be filled by retired diplomat Mark Grossman. The ambassador in Kabul, Carl Eichenberry, is coming to the end of his term, and the coalition commander, General David Petraeus, is slated to leave at the end of the year. Beyond the serious challenges on the ground in the region, Secretary Clinton and the Obama administration need to be concerned with American public perception. A recent Gallup poll shows that 82% of Americans view Afghanistan unfavorably and 76% view Pakistan unfavorably. That's mainly because this war has dragged on now nearly 10 years. But there still needs to be progress on and off the battlefield for the American public to support a continued military presence in Afghanistan.
So we need to recognize that that support is a dwindling resource. And so Secretary Clinton and others are going to need to make the case that the maintenance of high levels of resource allocations, whether people or money or anything else, in Afghanistan is going to bear fruit.
And looking east, Pakistan's cooperation remains critical for coalition operations in Afghanistan. Even before U.S. troops arrived to the region, officials in Pakistan were dealing with their own difficulties, including a growing insurgency, corruption, political instability, and a struggling economy. Such problems have made it even less likely for Pakistani officials to exert the type of effort needed to secure a border that would be hard enough to secure under normal circumstances. Scott Heidler, AlJazeera, New York.
Let's cross to Washington, D.C. now and talk to Joshua Faust, a fellow at the American Security Project, who has consulted for the U.S. government on intelligence and defense issues. Thanks for joining us on Al Jazeera, Joshua. They're very big shoes to fill. Can Mark Grossman do it?
By all accounts, he can. From everything I've been able to dig up about him, he is a smart, very capable diplomat who knows how to work the system. So there's a great deal of optimism in the community that he'll be able to actually fill the shoes very nicely.
Richard Holbrooke was a large personality with a very strong and credible track record. He was sent to both Afghanistan and Pakistan to get results. There have been huge problems in the way America deals, not just with Afghanistan, but also with Pakistan. The troika of the relationship is very fractious at times. What are his immediate concerns, and what does he have to address right now?
Well, probably the most immediate concern facing the relationship with Pakistan is the resolution of the dispute over the status of Raymond Davis, who was an employee or in some way related to the embassy and was involved in the deaths of several Pakistani nationals and has since been arrested. In the interim since his arrest, the embassy has claimed that he is entitled to diplomatic immunity, and the Pakistani authorities have disputed that. And that remains unresolved. And part of the dispute, part of the fallout from that dispute, has been that a tripartite meeting between Afghanistan and Pakistan that was supposed to take place this week has been delayed. So I would think that one of Grossman's first priorities is going to be resolving that situation so he can get onto the broader strategic aspects of the war.
Again, it boils down to the fact that America looks after its own first, and yet what concerns most Pakistanis in that country will be the ongoing drone attacks. I mean, they would want that issue addressed by the special envoy, and they don't want that to be sidetracked in any way.
Right, and the drones are a very interesting issue within U.S. policy circles, too, in that there's a growing awareness that some Pakistanis, at least, find them incredibly provocative. and that the drones are driving a lot of anti-American sentiment. On the other hand, the intelligence community is adamant that the drones are effective at reducing the capabilities of al-Qaeda. So from a sheer effectiveness perspective, there's still a lot of support to continue the drone strikes.
Well, let's move over then across the border to Afghanistan. President Karzai has been reasserting himself in many different ways. His relationship with Richard Holbrooke was fractious, and we saw that even on camera sometimes. It was a very cold relationship. It didn't like being dictated to. How is Mark Grossman going to try and deal with that, knowing that one of the big issues in Afghanistan is corruption, and that America puts a lot of pressure on Afghanistan to try and sort it out?
I mean, that's going to be up to Grossman, and it'll be interesting to see how he navigates that. Holbrooke wasn't the only contentious relationship that President Karzai had to manage as far as the United States goes. Since the leak of an embassy cable by Ambassador Eikenberry expressing no confidence in the ability of Hamid Karzai to rule, he's had a very troubled relationship with the embassy as well. So there's a lot of repair work that Grossman has ahead of him, and I think coming at the situation from a blank slate actually gives him a lot of leeway to rebuild the relationship that we used to have with Karzai.
And how about the fact that President Obama has alluded to the fact that there will be a reduction in troops and that Afghanistan has to step up to the mark? I mean, it's one thing to suggest, it's another thing to push.
It is, and there are some encouraging signs within the Afghan security forces. The National Army in particular has shown a lot of promise for being able to step up and take over operations. The problem is most of Afghanistan's other security services have not. In particular, the National Police remain riddled with corruption and deeply unpopular in most of the country. One of the main strategies that General Petraeus has decided is going to be how Afghans can step up and take over the functions that U.S. troops were performing is by instituting local security groups, and whether those will succeed is anyone's guess.
What do you think, Joshua? How long do you think he'll last?
Who? General Petraeus?
No, Mark Grossman.
Mark Grossman, that'll be interesting too. The job of the special representative is extremely high stress. I have no idea how long he'll be able to manage all of the different competing constituencies there. But again, from the people who've worked with him before, they're very confident in his abilities to be able to manage all of that. So he might actually end up being a surprise and do a really impressive job.
Well, maybe as and when he stays or leaves, we'll get you back on to assess it again. Thanks very much.
Yes.
Well, still much more to come on the programme, including China's foreign ministry rejects claims it was behind a cyber attack on Canada's government. And convicted of stealing state secrets, the US reacts after a Chinese court upholds a conviction against an American geologist.
As the people of Uganda go to the polls, fears of vote rigging, public protests and violence are proving an unwelcome distraction. But after 25 years of rule, will President Museveni retain power? Uganda elections.
Decoding the stories that shape our views.
Those images catapulted the story back into the headlines.
Everything that I thought would be easy was hard, and everything that I thought would be hard was easy.
From mainstream media to consumer-led advertising.
There are other options.
What's at the front line of global media?
This has been reported worldwide.
With a major media angle to it.